Let's talk about chains you can't see. Back in 1873, a truly revolutionary book argued that the most powerful kind of slavery isn't physical at all. It's mental. This is our deep dive into Jyotirao Phule's Gulamgiri and its incredible mission to unchain the mind.
Right there. That single sentence is really the heart of Phule's entire argument. I mean, think about it. He believed you can control people way more effectively by making them believe they deserve to be controlled, that their lot in life is just fixed, and there's nothing they can do about it.
So that's the big question, right? How is that even possible? This is the central challenge that Gulamgiri, which literally translates to slavery, forces all of us to think about. It really makes you question what power and oppression even mean. So, how did Phule say it was done?
Well, Phule's answer really starts with the book itself. You see, Gulamgiri wasn't just some text, it was an act of intellectual rebellion. It was a whole different kind of weapon, designed for a whole different kind of slavery.
So what is it exactly? Well, it was published way back in 1873 in the Marathi language, and this book was basically a direct attack on the caste system. Phule saw it as this really sophisticated, ancient machine for psychologically enslaving the Shudra and Ati-Shudra communities, what were called the lower caste. And here's something that'll really make you think: the dedication. Phule dedicated this book to the American abolitionists who were fighting chattel slavery. For him, the struggle of African Americans and the struggle of India's lower castes, well, they were two fronts in the exact same global war for human freedom. Just incredible.
Okay, so how exactly were these invisible chains forged? According to Phule, this was no accident. It was a system, and it was carefully constructed over thousands of years.
And when you put them side by side, the difference is just, well, it's stark. Physical slavery, it relies on actual chains and legal documents. But the mental slavery Phule was talking about, that was enforced by ideas, a deeply ingrained belief in your own inferiority, the stamp of approval from religion, and, maybe most important of all, the systemic denial of knowledge.
I mean, just listen to this shocking rule Phule brings up from ancient texts, like the Manusmriti. Seriously, think about what this means. These weren't just suggestions, they were presented as divine laws, and they were designed to create an information monopoly. If learning itself is a crime, how can you even begin to question your own situation?
And this is where Phule makes what is probably his most radical argument, that all those sacred myths people were taught for centuries weren't really spiritual tales. They were political weapons.
You see, Phule read Hindu mythology and said, hold on a second. He didn't see it as religion. He saw it as history, written by the winners. He argued that all those stories of gods defeating demons, or asuras, were actually just symbolic accounts of Aryan invaders conquering India's original indigenous people.
Take his retelling of the story of King Bali. In the traditional myth, the god Vishnu comes as the avatar Vaman and defeats the quote-unquote demon king. But Phule just flips the whole script. He says no, Bali Raja was a just and beloved king of the common people. And Vaman wasn't a god but a cunning conqueror who tricked Bali Raja out of his kingdom. And then the new rulers just rewrote history, calling the old king a demon to make their conquest look righteous.
So you can see the two narratives right here. What was taught as a divine event, Phule exposed as a political conspiracy. What was seen as a victory for righteousness, he saw as the very beginning of injustice. He even pointed out that in many folk traditions, people still prayed for King Bali Raja to come back, proof that the memory of his fair rule had somehow survived all those centuries.
Okay, so this wasn't just about ideas and ancient myths. This stuff had real, devastating effects on people's everyday lives. Phule meticulously laid out how this mental slavery led directly to a system of exploitation.
Phule paints this picture of a village-level machine, and it was designed for one thing: oppression. At the very bottom, you've got the Shudra farmer, the guy creating all the actual wealth. But his life is totally controlled by the Brahmin village accountant, the Kulkarni, who fakes the records, and the Brahmin district officer, the Mamlatdar, who makes sure he never gets justice. The whole system was perfectly interlocked.
And get this, even when the British brought in what were supposed to be neutral systems, like public education, the old power structure found a way to game it. Phule showed how the money and the schools were almost entirely taken over by Brahmin students. They then went on to fill all the jobs in the colonial government, locking in their power and leaving pretty much everyone else behind.
But here's the thing, Phule wasn't just about diagnosing the disease. He was all about prescribing the cure.
For him, there was only one way to break the chains of the mind, and that was with the key of knowledge.
So what was his solution? He laid out this clear three-step path to freedom. It all starts with education. And not just reading and writing. He saw education as the weapon you use to build self-respect. Once you have that self-respect, you can finally truly reject the lie that you're inferior. And once enough people do that, they can organize and demand their rights with a single, powerful voice.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just talk. This was action. The same year he published Gulamgiri, he founded the Satya Shodak Samaj, which means the Truth Seekers Society. It was a real-world organization built to educate the oppressed and fight for equality, completely sidestepping all the old, broken structures.
And he was clear. This revolution had to be for everyone. Phule was a fierce champion for the education of women and all oppressed groups. His wife, Savitrabai Phule, became India's first modern female teacher. And she had to brave incredible hostility. I mean, people would literally throw dirt and stones at her just to open schools for girls.
You know, at the end of the day, Phule was a realist. He knew this was going to be a long, long fight. He didn't see his work as some kind of final victory. He saw it as planting a seed. He was basically entrusting the future of this whole revolution to the generations that would come after him.
And that really brings us right to today. Gulamgiri was a fire starter. It was a book designed to light up the darkest corners of an oppressive system. And now, more than 150 years later, it leaves us with a question, doesn't it? How far has that light actually traveled? And who might still be living in the shadows?